let's talk about fashion. In the pronunciation section of the homework, there was an article about fashion and confidence. Uh, their point was about a social experiment that was basically people were given lab coats, white lab coats, and they were told these were from doctors and you can put them on or you should wear them. Some people were just wearing their regular street clothes and some people were given white lab coats, but they were told that they were from artists because artists also need to, when you're painting, protect your clothes. They also wear white lab coats. They do. I'm not making this up. They do. So the way people thought about the coat changed how well they did on tests they were given. Interesting, right? You might have heard this before if you ever watch spy movies. Sometimes they go into a restaurant, they put on a waiter's uniform. They go into a hospital, they just put on a white coat or green surgery clothing, and they look confident. They look like they should be there. If you look like you should be there, you feel more confident. If you're wearing red and everybody else is wearing white, then you may feel uncomfortable. Like, everybody got a memo to dress up, but I'm wearing a t-shirt. Oh no, I feel uncomfortable. So, feeling comfortable in clothing is also something we mentioned when we talked about dressing more than appropriate, dressing for the job you want, stuff like that, right? It's about a confidence boost, if you will. And the last thing is I wanted to mention that the article talked about the Wonder Woman pose and I talked about the Superman pose. And I just wanted to ask you guys to let me know, do you think it matters which pose you choose? Is one going to be more comfortable for men and one is going to be more comfortable for women? The article mentioning the Wonder Woman pose said it works for both men and women. It doesn't matter. But I just wanted to hear your opinion. So, what we're trying to do here, we talked about the fashion opinion. Now we're going to talk about a gender opinion. What I want you to do is make another opinion video, yay, if you will, and this time start talking about your opinion. Which do you think men, or if you're a man, talk about men, if you're a woman, talk about women, which do you think is easier to do, more your style, something you would do, the Wonder Woman pose or the Superman pose? And if you can say why, that would be great. And then when you're talking, try to give an example, your own example of when you had to make a choice between two things and one seemed more appropriate for women, one seemed more appropriate for men, and then give a reason why. So, choosing baby clothing, pink or blue, something like that. From your own life, if you've ever experienced this choice thing and you had to choose which one is better, because I'm a woman or because I'm a man. Think about it. It's not clear why men prefer A and women prefer B, or why society says pink is for girls and blue is for boys. When I first moved to Korea, I was happy to see so many men walking around in pink shirts. I thought it showed confidence in their masculinity. Nobody can tell you what color is masculine. I can wear any color if it looks good on me. In America, most men stay away from pink. They think it's feminine and they don't feel confident enough to wear it. I'm just saying, cultural difference that is, I think, refreshing. Okay. Today we're going to talk about hand gestures and the way they communicate. So, Before this, we talked a little bit about being Jewish or being American and using your hands a lot. Today, we're going to talk about what you should be doing with your hands. All right. So, let's go here. All right. I'm going to add a video every time I give you some public speaking advice. I like to add videos. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, that means you're not reading the detail, the information summary for each video it has questions for the comment section, it has the homework, it has the answers for last lesson's homework, and it has vocabulary. Sometimes I use vocabulary that I'm not sure you know or is unclear, so I add the vocabulary in the summary of the video, and links to other things like reading, other places you can find reading, and TED Talk videos, other videos, culture moments. I mentioned Black Lightning, and then I realized maybe people didn't know where to find that, so I added a link to the trailer for the TV show. Just extra information, check it out. Maybe it's interesting. All right. When we're talking about hand communication, body language in general is important. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but certainly I've been to a country, I don't know the language, I'm trying to order something, and that one. And I usually get that one. So we all know body language works. There's also a little, between interested people, all right. But we're talking about public speaking, and we're also talking about being on a stage or in front of people in a meeting. That's also public speaking. And we're going to talk about eye contact, but right now I'm just hands. We started talking about hands, so let's keep talking about it. I'm just going to talk about a few points having to do with hands, and the reading in the homework is going to talk about 20 other things to do with your hands. So here are, first of all, I want to talk about communicating with your hands. Not just what to do with your hands, but how to use your hands to communicate. Okay. So, for example, one of the things that are mentioned in public speaking articles about using your hands to communicate is when you say a number, show that number with your fingers. So that's the first one. Okay, you got it. That's the first one. The reason to do that is it keeps track of things. So, for example, if you have 3 points, you could say, I have 3 points. Number 1, blah, 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 blah. Number 2, blah, 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 blah. And number 3. So it keeps the timeline going. All right, that's one reason to show numbers with your hands. Another reason to show numbers with your hands is it has a certain power to it. The same way that it organizes information on a piece of paper. When you see a piece of paper and there's 1 and 2 and 3, it organizes it. But it's also, numbers have a certain power. So when you're talking about the first thing we need to talk about is there's a certain power to the number 1, 2, and 3. Once you get into numbers like 15, we don't use our hands anymore because those numbers are too big and they don't have as much force as the first few numbers. My top 5. Number 1, it has a certain feeling of building up the emotions. Okay, that's one. Use your hands to underscore the importance of an issue. I mean, I mentioned before, some people think it's a Jewish thing, some people think it's an American thing, but using your hands to talk to people, especially during presentations. So this isn't to say when you're having a conversation you should use your hands a lot. Not related. This is only about presentations. When you're talking about certain things, one way to emphasize an issue is to show with your hands. So for example, something small, right? They're in Korea. We live in Korea. Um, in English, something very small, a small issue, a small problem. It gives the word an emphasis. Something very big, moving your hands to show something very big, a big problem, a big opportunity, gives it more value, more meaning.